Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
So, guys, I want to talk about, this season we've been talking about businesses, and these are businesses that service businesses. So our B2B business owners, because we think that is important that there are spaces for professional services who service other professional services or the like, right? And that they're helping perhaps a personal brand. We've had a couple of people who have shared those things. And so we think that it's important. And so for us, leading a marketing and communications firm, we certainly love when we get to bring another communications genius to the table, because we are all geniuses in our own right. And I'm excited about our next guest because he is in the business of communications. And I'm super excited because this is where I live and breathe. And so this is like going to be the only thing that's missing is wine right about now, because this is the part that we get to talk about the joy that we get to do to shape narratives and tell stories. And so Terrence Chappell is the principal of Chappell Communications Group, a social media agency that specializes in socializing nuanced messaging among cultural communities. And he's going to dig into what that looks like and what that means. So for those of you all that are on the other end, like, what is that? He partners with clients and organizations to tap into the human experience across advocacy and mission-based work. The one thing that I love about Terrence is that, much like us, we just want to make a difference. We just want to be able to do work that is mission centric. And so I love that you are here and you get to share in your journey, in your story. So welcome to the show, Terrence.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the introduction. I just want to bring you to like every room I go to.
Everybody says that. Everybody says that. I'm like, okay. I got to read what's here, but hey, can I put a little spit onto it?
Please don't stop. No, I love it.
So from there, so Terrence, tell us, before we dig into Chappell Communications, we'd love to know about you as a young boy. Like, who was Terrence as a young boy?
Well, my name is Terrence Chappell. I'm from South Side of Chicago.
Yes.
Auburn Gresham. South Side is the only side.
You said Auburn Gresham. I love it,
Gresham, baby.
So for those of you who don't know, in Chicago, it's on the South Side of Chicago, because we have listeners in other states and in different countries. So we want you all to know it's still part of the South Side, but it's a cute community that he is advocating for. And I'm happy because, just so you all know, it's an area that's really growing and booming. So he's in a hot area. So just to let y'all know. Okay, so go ahead.
And so as a kid, I was always creative. My parents always kind of leaned into that and tapped into that. My dad's funny is because he's a retared CPA.
Okay.
And so when I was into creative writing, and he would always say, make sure you have a marketable skill. And so he's like, this is great. And so
basically, this ain't really what I want you to get into.
Make some money off of something. Make some money. You can do it, but make some money at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And so they always kind of really encourage that. And I feel like it's kind of, we were just talking about our mentor, Kimberly, and I used to be so ashamed of where I was from, Auburn Gresham, just because it was these stereotypes that which single parent homes or people who don't take care of their lawns or whatever it is. And that's not a complete narrative of Auburn Gresham and of the South Side. And so I grew up in a middle class family. Our parents very much invested in us, and Black middle class is not the same as white middle class.
Would you say that again?
It is not the same. And so they definitely went without, and so we can have these very kind of experience centric kind of moments in our life. And I just remember that. And and I remember my parents just really encouraging us to like kind of really tap into what we want to do, but make some money off of it.
Absolutely.
And so I was a magazine journalism major, and I'm also was like a gay black boy on the South Side.
Okay.
So navigating through that, and I'm sharing this kind of because it really molded me and formed me into kind of the professional I am now, and kind of how I lead with work, and how I kind of where I pull like my experiences from. And that's kind of like a very high level of my background, and majored in magazine journalism, graduated in December 2007. And the one thing they don't tell you about journalism school is that you will not find a job.
Say that
That
again.
was the Great Recession. And so
Yep.
I was, what was I doing? I was blogging, I was writing. I joke and say I would attend the opening of a bag of Lay's if I thought I could get my writing out there more. Like somebody I'm gonna get my lifelong for a job.
I love it.
And so, but that kind of a long story short is that FN Vodka was coming to town in Chicago, and they wanted to draw more of an LGBT clientele. And so at the time I was blogging for ChicagoPride.com. And so they invited me to kind of sit in their host committee and participate. And I did that a few times, and just kind of like, not like social media wasn't big back then, but just kind of post about it, invite like my friends and family out to it. And then an opening as their digital manager for F and Vodka came up, and they said, "Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yes." What's that? I mean, I didn't say that to them. I was like, "What's that?"
But you're like, "Okay,
yes,
but what's that?"
It's a job. It's a job. And it's full time. My dad was like, "Take it, please take it."
I love it.
And then so I interviewed for it, and I got the job, and did not know what I was doing. It was very, looking back when I was doing community management. So we were what I was tasked to do is really, how do we engage people specifically on Facebook with F and Vodka. And then at the time they had, I think they sent me to Fashion Week, which was amazing. And then my job there was to like really capture content and then post it, and really, really kind of make frame a personality for the brand on Facebook. And then I look back on that job, it's like, wow, I really didn't learn a whole lot, but it was really, really fun. And I was able to kind of grow this network. But the job where I really learned a lot from was when I got a job at Walgreens as their social media project manager. So this was, my professional confidence was like zero. Like, this is corporate, and it was, I was like a fish out of water. I was so uncomfortable. I was so out of my comfort zone. And at the time I would mimic these people who I thought were successful and who I thought sounded good, but I wasn't being myself, right? And I think what helped me was honestly my team. Like my team, my manager was very, very patient with me. And my role there was to kind of, how do we create experiences around Walgreens products? Because at the end of the day, they're selling batteries and like Metamucil, and like it's not like the sexiest thing. But I remember, and this is where I kind of got the idea, like not even thinking of wanting to start my own thing. It's when it comes to consumer goods or really anything, it's really about the human experience, and like what does that consumer good or whatever it is, how does that, you weave your product around that human experience, and that's what really resonates with people, and that's where I really kind of learn about humanizing products and like not it not being so product centric. And so I remember my manager I made so many mistakes. I literally look back on it and like I remember there were times in which I just went to crawl underneath my bed, but he was very, very patient with me.
That's awesome.
And I had an amazing experience working with him. I also did not have insurance, so I didn't need to. And so I got a job.
Been there, done it.
Yeah, like I was making
real.
$25 an hour.
Yep.
I just moved out. My parents like, you need to get out.
Yeah.
You need to get out.
Yeah.
I was making $25 an hour, and because I was a consultant, and like that's how they do a lot of their workforce. But I got amazing experience, and then a role at Chappell Communications opened up, and I remember we were joking saying any black professional.
Yeah, we've all rolled up in Burrell, but I don't think you're a real in this space of marketing until you've worked in Burrell. I think that's I think if there's a way to say, hey, if you haven't done this, you're not real. Like that, if you haven't worked at Burrell, you ain't really doing no real big work.
No.
That's how
If
especially
not, you're doing
in Chicago.
targeted work.
Right.
No, yeah.
You're not, right? You targeted media, multicultural media and experience and multicultural marketing. And what I appreciate with you that you just shared, and I'm really going back to, was that you learned journalism. And I think the form of writing, right? And I'm going back to that because, as you see, right, we're taking that out of the mix, right? Everything is social, everything, and we get that in AI. So they're taking that away from us. But one thing that you can't take away is our ability to write and communicate, right? Because the fact of the matter is that one of the things that you just said was that I made a lot of mistakes. And I think, and you tell me if am I correct, because I know this to be true. When you get that paper and that English teacher's writing over, you like, dang. But, right? You're like, dang.
I've gotten some red marks in my day.
You know what I mean? And when those red marks are there, you're like, oh my gosh. But what it does do is that it perfects us, right? It helps us to know like, no, no, and no. And so I think that's a form of, being able to accept that you make those mistakes. Because I remember, and shout out to Flowers Communications Group, and I went into the PR space. And so I went radio, TV, film, then went into communications in Chicago. Because to your point, it wasn't a lot of jobs here in Chicago. And so I was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I wrote this piece,
Feeling good.
Terrence, she didn't, back then it wasn't no Google Docs. It was like she wrote on it. I was like, dang, but I made a lot of mistakes because, and those mistakes really help you to become who you are. And so you're coming fresh out of school. You think, hey, I got this degree. Hey, I got this. And then you discover like, oh, shoot.
You ain't nobody.
Right. You ain't nobody. And so, it humbles you. And I think that's the thing that I think makes us great as marketers and communicators is because we know what that feels like to be able to come into a space where we got the book knowledge, but we haven't had the experience.
Exactly. And it makes you a more compassionate
storyteller.
Yes. And I feel like the more experiences you have, and the including the mistakes and the fails.
I agree.
And it just makes you overall more compassionate person. And I remember, because I remember when I lost my first client, I was like, I'm a failure.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. This is like the end of the world.
It's the end of the world.
Yep. Like I will never be great. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And I look back on it and you get the lesson that needs to be learned.
Yeah.
And you're accountable for some of the mistakes you made. And then you also know like it was some of them. And then you move on.
And then you move on. But then you also use it as a case study. Like, okay, you want me to tell you from there? And it becomes your case study. And realize that as you grow, you like, I wouldn't want to work with them anyway. Like as you grow in the business, you realize that thank you. You didn't know that was a thank you, but it becomes a thank you. So I want to talk about this socializing nuanced messaging. I would love for you to explore what that is and how did you get to that method of messaging?
Absolutely. So got my start at Chappell Communications. And so for me, nuanced messaging is no community is monolithic. And so we're working specifically in the context of us, black and brown folks. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about a current client we're working with, Black Roots Alliance. They came out with they're a nonprofit, a local nonprofit here. Okay. And they came out, they do like kind of democracy and liberation.
Nice.
And like you name it, they're a part of it.
Social advocacy,
criminal justice reform.
Okay.
And so they tapped us to work with, they came out with a public safety report.
Okay.
And they surveyed about like 100 Black residents from the south suburbs, south side, north side, and kind of what public safety means for them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I went through the report, it had a lot of different meanings to people. And so that's the nuance, right? So for some people, in this context, public safety meant healthcare. It meant having a job. It meant housing. For some people, it meant their mom or being home. And a lot of it brought up like nostalgia. Like I remember when I was growing up of like the older kids kind of looking out for the younger kids. And so, and I say that to say that that's what I mean by nuanced messaging, that just because you're dealing with a particular group of people, whoever they are, or however they look like, they're not monolithic, and there's different variations and gray areas within that community. And that's why I love tapping into that. And I think when I connect that to like kind of my experience of growing up as a Black and not quite out yet, everybody else knew except for me. I mean, I knew a little bit. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I was trying to, it's the 90s. That PC stuff wasn't going on when I was growing up.
I love it.
I feel like, for my experience as a gay Black man, is not the same as another gay Black man who may have grew up in another neighborhood or whatever. And so I love tapping into that gray area and really kind of expanding that into like storytelling, is because I think when you can do that from a place of education, and in social media, you can have fun with it and can be entertaining, and it doesn't have to feel like you're in your soapbox. So that's what I really mean. Like,
I love it
about that. And it's
I love it, Terrence.
Thank you.
I love it because I think that, one of the things that I can share, one of the things that we got from a client who's like, your agencies, you guys are very culturally sensitive. And so we ran with that, right? Was like, we are, because to your point, realizing that during COVID, they gave us this term because at the time we were working with a utility company. And so there were people that were getting on Zoom who were in bathrooms, who were in closets, because they didn't have the space. They didn't have a designated space to take on a meeting. So we had to be sensitive to that and recognize that that's how they're showing up, and they're showing up their best self. But for some could look at like, your best self is in the bathroom. And so I remember us showing them as memes that this right here is how we are. This is what the world looks like right now. And so they don't have an area, or you can have 4 people working in a house online.
That was content. That's really clever.
Yeah. So we were like trying to get them to understand it. And so, because for them, it was because we were getting information about, on the utility side, was you realize that we could have all 4 members on a call that all have a different view of how they see utilities, but they all live in the same house, right? So being culturally sensitive, one could be, to your point, may identify with something completely different from what we understand, whatever that is, right? But understanding that one could look at utility, and we found as, man, I need my power because I'm a content creator, right? Like, y'all ain't playing with me like this. For other people, it was their heat, right?
Yeah.
So, and how they see it. And so I love that you use that term about nuanced messaging. And I do want to ask you, do you find that as we move right into this AI dimension world,
it scares me so much.
Yeah, it's scary. So I wanted,
scary.
do you think that we'll miss out on this level of mission-centric marketing and communications, much like what your agency does?
So AI keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
But let me get into the positive.
Yes.
So I think AI can come in a very good support role for content creation and for strategy. And so the way we're using AI is like, so for instance, we're working on some thought leadership pieces.
Okay.
And so I'm still kind of old school, so I still kind of want to find the research myself. And that's kind of the fun part of it.
Yeah.
But I think AI can be very helpful in gathering quantitative data that can help inform a strategy, or that can help inform a thought leadership piece. I do not think AI can replace humans. And like, you can ask you see it on LinkedIn. One of my other mentors, Diane Primo, did I thought this was so clever. She asked OpenAI, like, show me CEOs, and they were all white men. And so, I think, and it's also really important of the inputs. And so, like, it's only as good as like the inputs.
That's what it's only as good.
It's only good as the inputs.
Yep.
And so if the inputs are from people who just are white men,
correct?
That's what it's
racist,
gonna be.
Anti-racist, anti-gay, right? So we don't understand that. So there's terms. I totally agree 100% that I think that as communicators, as people like yourself, as all of us, I think to your point, we can work in collaboration with AI and understanding that it can be used as a tool, but it cannot replace.
It doesn't replace. And I even would gather data, like, give me, and because we've worked on campaigns specifically around like the sexual wellness and health of Black gay men or Black same gender loving men, and gathering that data. But the data doesn't tell a complete story. Yeah. It doesn't get into the human element. It doesn't get into the human element. It doesn't. Yeah. It can say like 80% of X, Y, Z, but it doesn't get. So why is that 80%? Yeah. Because Black same gender loving men seem to play within their own people who look like them, and so it's like a bull in a china shop. And so that's something that AI doesn't capture, and that's something that you can only know from being a part of that community, and just not only just being a part of it, but just like kind of knowing what's up. And AI, again, is only as good as the inputs. I'm not 100% against it, but, and I don't think it's like, I'm not in for that's going to steal my job or like still work. But I think it can come in a support role when used strategically and when you really think about your inputs. And I think it's and I read the Melinda Gates' book about the moment of lift, which some people were just like, she didn't write it herself. I personally think she did. But what I did like what she said is, and what she's advocating is that we need a lot of different people at the table when we're talking about AI, races, genders, disability status, is because that all is going to play into the inputs and how, it comes together in the end.
Yeah. And I think the need for agencies like yourself is necessary. Because I think we made the mistake, and you tell me this, as you work with businesses and servicing them, right? You recognize that they've chosen your agency based on your unique offering. And so when I ask you this question, do you believe that there is room for all of us, even though we're all Black agents? But we both came from Burrell, right? And that was kind of like this one machine. But now that we've got all of these people come out of Burrell who have all these smaller boutique agencies, do you believe that there's room for all of us?
Girl, there is so much money out here.
Okay.
Yes. There is.
I just wanted you to say yes.
There is so much money out here. And I believe in creating partners out of people. Yeah. And I'm not great at everything. Like, I lean into my strengths. I lean into my core competencies. And then the things that I'm like, I guess that I just honestly can't do, then partner with another Black agency that can help you partner in the business on that. Yeah. I wish everyone had that frame of mind. It's because we're not operating at a deficit. That's right. Like, we're not. And so we were talking about this earlier, like saying people's names when they're like, in fact, most of the clients my first job I got have all been through Black women. Yeah. Like, they have all, like, from like my mom, my sister, the woman I graduated with, Kim, like, it was all through Black women saying my name when I was not in the room. And so, like, it's just, when people are just kind of don't have that lens, it's like, what's going on with you? Yeah. Like, you already have business. Like, you're good. You're not
taking from me.
There's
like,
so much money
it's
out
so
here.
much money. Like, we can all win. But I do think, all full transparency, Terrence, I believe that generationally, that came from that generation, because there was just one. There was just this. So we are breaking those chains and breaking these nuances that don't exist anymore, don't serve us anymore. And that this idea of collaboration is the way to do this, and that we can all collaborate in a space. And so, guys, knowing that Kim Rudd, whom I love, recommended Terrence, works in communication. She is a rock star. She is my mentor, sister, auntie, you name it, soror. And so recommending you to say, hey, he would be great for the show, and here you are. And so recognizing that's what we do in this place of community, but you wouldn't know that unless you were on this side of communications, right? Absolutely. So we're all on the same team, but even though we're on the same team, on the same island, we rocking with each other, we all have our set of clients that love us for that own right. And we can still collaborate and buy into, hey, you want to work on this? I got a small piece of business. You want to work on this? Yeah. So it doesn't, I think that's the space that we have to open up, because you and I both know that's how we get more. we can get more together than we can apart. So when we come together, we're able to get those large contracts. I want to ask you, as we close on this part of B2B, is there a specific business today that you absolutely say, I cannot live without? If it's a Black business, great. But like, what is your go-to business that you absolutely love that helps you in your business?
That's a really good question. No one's never asked me that.
That's okay.
I would say, I think, wow. Okay, let me think on that for a
Yeah,
minute.
that's okay. Think on it.
There's a few things
Yeah,
that's coming.
yeah. Because I want people to understand that businesses have other businesses that they need to help them grow their business. And we have to be okay with, employing other businesses to help us to advance our business and not feel bad about that, right? And being okay, whether it's that perfect cleaning service or whatever, mental health, whatever it is, that's something that helps you become who you are, and you're able to support that business in its own right, but they help you to build your company.
Yeah, so like, shout out to my therapist. I love him. So he's definitely one of them. He keeps me sane.
Yes.
And then after that, I think of Nathaniel Jones, who we actually worked together at Burrell.
Okay.
He was a full-time another Burrellite. And so he does videography.
Okay.
And so social media has become so video centric.
Yep.
And it's very, very difficult to keep up with.
Yeah.
And so he has came in and helped me build out like a video kind of strategy for our clients.
Nice.
Where beforehand, I can't believe I look back on what I was doing maybe 5 years ago. I was like, I can't believe I was doing that.
Yeah.
And trying to do it day to day.
Yeah.
He's like, no, let's capture all this content in one quarter. Let's find out what their priorities are. And then let's publish it across like the next few months. So I would say Nathaniel Jones.
Nice.
And he's of Nathaniel Jones Productions. And he has been so instrumental in even working with our current client, Black Roots Alliance, and then working with a past client of ours, Chicago Black Gay Man's Caucus, of as far as like really creating these amazing videos that really makes our target audiences feel connected with the story even more. So I would say 100% him.
So I asked that question because oftentimes, right, we're selling ourselves, but we also have to understand there's partners that help us. And we literally need them to be able to advance our work, accelerate our work, but also help us to be better thinkers, right? Better at collaborations. And so I felt it was important so that, why? Because some people ask me, who do you use? Go listen to this podcast. That's with,
can I say somebody else too?
Yes.
My friend, Victoria Kent, who does PR and media relations. And that's something that it's like, it's not something like, I can do it, but she does it amazing. So she's been able, and so I bring her in if we're doing like an integrated marketing strategy. And she's been so amazing at like really kind of capturing local media and it making an even more robust campaign that not just lives in social media. So I would definitely say Victoria Kent.
I love it because here's what happens. So many people call me, ask me, who do you recommend? So now what I want to do is direct them to our season, direct them to a specific episode. Listen to this episode. He gave some great suggestions on people that you may want to consider because I don't have the holder. I'm not the holder of everything, right? Yeah. And so there's amazing people that are doing amazing, great things for other people that you may want to consider. And that's how we really build this ecosystem, and an ecosystem that we can all thrive. Much like you said, it's so much money out here we can win.
Let's go.
So I do want to ask you this. Why do Black businesses matter?
Man, we're the culture. Yeah. We are the culture. And it matters is because what will we have? What will we have? And so I specifically specialize in advocacy work that have uplift African-American communities. And also it's, I'm not going to make the case that it's good for the economy, but it's like we literally are the culture. Like those memes that you enjoy, Black Twitter, Black X, but they probably migrated from X now, so rightfully so. But that's a different podcast.
I was gonna say that's a different podcast, and we can talk about that though.
But like the music that we listen to, the food that we eat, the way that we kind of care for our elders, and the way that we've had to create our own economy because we were shut out.
Yeah.
And that we just we intrinsically matter, and that's why I love partnering, working with nonprofits or for-profits that have some sort of cultural angle to it.
Love it.
And how is because it's okay to kind of change up that messaging specifically for Black folks, is because we metabolize certain things differently, and that's okay. It doesn't have to. That's just what it means. That's it.
Yeah.
And so it matters to. Again, it matters because we are the culture.
We are the culture. I mean, taking from someone who is a communicator. So I love when they get to say that kind of stuff. You guys, Terrence, Chappell. Terrence, tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Please do. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, Terrence Chappell. And then I'm very active on Instagram, Terrence _Chappell. Or you can... I don't want to say shoot because I'm trying to fix my. You say they gotta fix it. Like I was like, you can send me an email.
Drop it in my inbox. Just drop a message in my phone. Yes. That was sweet though. That was slick though. That was slick. I was like, I'm not trying to say that. Okay,
send me an email, Terrence at ChappellCommunicationsGroup.com.
I love it. Well, when you've got two marketers and two communicators, we gonna be able to hold each other up and be like, okay, let's quickly pivot into a better word.
Reframe that.
Exactly. So we can frame narratives. I love that. So Dave, I'm sorry, Terrence. I'm gonna say Dave because I'm looking at something. I'm like, no, Terrence. What brings you joy?
Oh, I love that question. This is gonna sound like so cheesy.
No.
I love the holidays.
Okay.
Yes. And so we hosted, my partner and I, we hosted Thanksgiving, and both of our families were there.
Okay.
And I have the happiest memories of the holidays with my parents.
That's awesome.
They were amazing, and it's what brings me joy is to kind of, they're older. They're not trying to cook.
Yeah.
And so what gives me joy is to be able to do that with my family.
I love it.
And we're having both sets of our nieces and nephews over for a sleepover. And I love Christmas trees and just being able to just bring our families together.
Yeah.
And they all get along, which is great.
That's awesome.
And just being able to kind of carry on that tradition.
Yeah.
And that brings me a lot of joy.
I love that. And I know that currently we are, just so you all know, we're taping during the holidays, and I know that we're going to air this, the holidays have passed, but I think what Terrence is saying is that the opportunities from families to connect and be together brings you joy.
Very much so.
And that's beautiful. And that means that we need to keep doing more and more of it. Is that what you're saying? Is that's something that we need to do more and more and make it a habit, probably more than anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Life is tough. You don't want to do this alone.
Yeah,
you don't want to do this alone.
Yeah.
So, come over for dinner.
Yeah.
I love cooking.
So what Terrence is really saying is that while we're in this new season, that he's going to be cooking and inviting us over. And so we're going to enjoy all of the things that they're going to be cooking up. And so I will say this, I'm excited because you're going to invite me for dinner. I'm just saying, because right now you were like, oh my gosh. So, it's the holidays are going to move past us and we still got to eat here. So I'm just trying to make sure.
I love to eat. I'm thinking about food now.
Okay. So just making sure that by the time we air this, I need you to understand that, we still can take food gatherings. Okay.
Yes. I'm not going to get Hollywood on you. No.
Okay. Guys, again, Terrence Chappell, he's the principal of Chappell Communications Group. I do want to just ask you this as we close, is that one thing that you've learned over time as someone who is shaping narratives and being mission centric, what businesses should really pay attention to? Is there something that you could say they should be paying more attention to that we're not, that's in this place of nuance messaging?
That's really another good question. So when I think about the advocacy work that we work on, the people closest to the problem, and really integrating them on the early onset in a very appropriate and very compassionate way, and not just in the content, but behind the scenes. I just think about real fast about the work we did with then State Rep Lamont J. Robinson, now Fourth Ward Alderman, and they were going to close Mercy Hospital, which is a safety net hospital, on the early onset of the pandemic, which serves a lot of Black and brown communities and Asian communities. And so we were able to kind of gather and mobilize members of the community, and you have them in partnership with activists and civic lead and civil leaders. And that's a very powerful combination. So I would say like definitely stewarding narratives and stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So it feels even more authentic with the people closest to that particular issue.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important as I talk to businesses, if you're listening and you're looking at this is something that you need to hold on to as you build out your business and understanding this, because I think that is very important as we move in this place of 2024 and being more authentic and being more aware and being more empathetic and being more compassionate. I think that's so important. So I just want to say thank you, Terrence, for being on the show. I'm celebrating you and hope that someday we'll get to support more of you and collaborate with you. I would love to collaborate with you with some of the great things that you're doing. So guys, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week, or we like to say we will hear you next week. Well, you don't get a chance to hear us. I mean, you get to hear us. We don't get to hear you. But you know what? You can share with us with a review if there's a particular episode during this season that you really like that speak from a business. Share with us. We want to hear from you. So please, 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 we love to have social listening. Listening is not us just doing all the talking, but we want to hear from others. So feel free to share this episode. I think it's an episode that you can share with people who are looking for communications and really understanding this idea of messaging. So I just want to say thanks again for listening to another episode of Black Businesses Matter.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer marketing and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.